Did Kate Middleton just expose Meghan Markle as a master manipulator? A shocking move that could destroy everything Meghan thought she had protected. Behind closed doors, Kate Middleton is reportedly waging a secret war against Meghan Markle, one that could change everything. Leaked private emails reveal Meghan's true intentions, and they're nothing like the image she's crafted. What did Kate uncover and why now? With royal ties on the line, these explosive revelations could tear apart the fragile relationship between the two women and shock the world. Stay tuned to find out why this could be the end of Meghan's royal ambitions and what Kate's next move might be. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It's a moment that could shake the foundations of the British royal family to its core. A stunning new claim has emerged that could forever alter the dynamic between two of the most high-profile women in the monarchy, Kate Middleton, the ever-gracious Duchess of Cambridge, and Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. The latest bombshell? A shocking revelation that Kate secretly leaked Meghan's private emails to expose her true intentions. Could this really be true? Is it possible that Kate, the poised and reserved figure we've come to know, was involved in such a dramatic and calculated move against Meghan? What would drive Kate to take such drastic steps? In a world where the public sees only what's presented to them, a curated image of harmony and royal duty, behind the palace doors lies a web of complex relationships, power struggles, and whispered secrets. For years, Meghan and Kate's relationship has been the subject of intense speculation, from rumors of rivalry to subtle tension during public appearances. But no one could have predicted this. An allegation that one of the most revered women in the royal family may have covertly turned the tables on her sister-in-law. But why would Kate do this? What could possibly compel her to betray Meghan's trust? And what were the contents of these emails that supposedly exposed Meghan's manipulative and dishonest side? How did this leak come to light? And what does it mean for the future of their relationship and the royal family as a whole? These are the questions that have been swirling around, and in this video, we will unravel this shocking story piece by piece. It's crucial to understand that these aren't just baseless rumors. The leaked emails, if true, reveal a side of Meghan Markle that's far from the polished image we see in the media. In the world of royal protocol, where every move is scrutinized, where diplomacy is key, and where loyalty is paramount, this alleged breach of privacy represents more than just a petty squabble between family members. It reveals a deep-seated tension that has been bubbling beneath the surface for years. Kate Middleton, the future queen consort, and Meghan Markle, the royal outsider who's made waves at every turn. This clash is not just a personal disagreement. It's a battle over power, image, and legacy. As we dig deeper, we will take a closer look at the events leading up to this explosive moment. Was this really an act of self-preservation on Kate's part? Or was it something more calculated? And how did Meghan respond to this shocking breach? Did she see it coming? Was she prepared for the devastating fallout? The answers to these questions may not be as straightforward as they seem, and they will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about these two women and their role in the royal family. But the story doesn't stop there. We will also delve into the ramifications of this leak. How did the rest of the royal family react? Were Prince William and King Charles aware of Kate's actions, or were they caught off guard by the exposure? This leak, whether intentional or not, could have serious consequences not just for Kate and Meghan but for the entire monarchy. The ripple effects are bound to be far-reaching, and the public's perception of the royal family could be forever altered. In this video, we'll take you through each shocking detail, one step at a time, as we break down the implications of this alleged email leak. We'll explore the backstory of Kate and Meghan's relationship, the build-up to the scandal, and the long-term effects it could have on the royal family. But be prepared for twists and turns along the way. Just when you think you've figured it out, there's another layer to uncover. Because, in the world of the royals, nothing is ever as it seems. You won't want to miss a single moment of this jaw-dropping tale. The truth is more complex than we could have ever imagined, and by the end of this video, you'll have a new understanding of the inner workings of the royal family and the lengths some members may go to in order to protect their legacies. The question remains, was Kate justified in exposing Meghan's secrets, or did she take things too far? So, let's dive in. The truth behind the shocking claim that Kate Middleton leaked Meghan Markle's emails isn't as simple as it may seem. And by the time we're done, you'll be left questioning not just the future of Meghan and Kate's relationship, but the very nature of loyalty, family, and power within the royal family itself. In the world of the British royal family, everything is meticulously planned, every word carefully chosen. Public images are crafted, speeches are rehearsed, and every action is scrutinized by millions of eyes. The lives of the royals are often presented as nothing short of picture-perfect. But what happens when a crack forms in that seemingly impenetrable facade? When private communications, meant to remain hidden behind palace walls, are suddenly thrust into the public eye? The story of Kate Middleton's alleged decision to leak Meghan Markle's private emails is not just about a simple breach of privacy. It's about the power of words, the manipulation of narratives, and the lengths people will go to protect their own image. If the claims are true, these emails reveal more than just family disagreements or personal spats. They provide a glimpse into the tangled web of royal politics, where loyalty is tested, secrets are kept, and reputations are made or destroyed. The emails in question, according to multiple sources, contain detailed discussions between Meghan and her closest confidants. These emails reportedly expose Meghan's private thoughts on her royal duties, her relationship with the media, and her intentions regarding the future of her and Prince Harry's royal roles. But there's one critical detail that makes these emails particularly explosive. They portray Meghan in a light far darker than the one she has cultivated in the public eye. Far from the sympathetic figure many have come to see, these emails paint Meghan as manipulative, dishonest, and, most damning of all, self-serving. But why would Kate, who has always prided herself on her diplomatic nature and her role as the future queen consort, decide to reveal such personal information? It's a question that has puzzled many. After all, Kate has always been the picture of composure, someone who has carefully built a reputation as a calm and measured presence in the royal family. Why risk everything for the sake of exposing Meghan? Was it a deliberate act of revenge, or was there something more at play? To understand this, we need to look closely at the contents of these alleged emails. According to reports, the messages from Meghan contained harsh criticisms of the royal family, particularly of the way they handled her entry into the monarchy. In one email, Meghan is said to have vented her frustrations about the rigid protocols and the suffocating expectations placed upon her as a member of the royal family. She expressed feelings of isolation, a desire to break free from the constraints of royal life, and even hinted at plans to distance herself from the monarchy altogether. While many of these sentiments are understandable, considering the intense pressure Meghan faced, they were also incredibly damaging. If these emails were indeed leaked by Kate, they would have exposed Meghan's vulnerabilities and painted her as someone who was actively seeking to undermine the monarchy, all while presenting herself as the victim. In a world where image is everything, this portrayal could prove disastrous for Meghan, particularly given the royal family's tight grip on public perception. But the plot thickens when we consider the timing of the leak. Why now? Why expose these emails after Meghan has already stepped away from royal duties? The answer, according to insiders, may lie in the growing tensions between Kate and Meghan. For months, whispers had circulated within the palace about Meghan's increasing dissatisfaction with her royal role. She had already made waves with her and Harry's decision to step back from their senior positions, and it was rumored that she had made several attempts to expand her influence beyond the constraints of the monarchy. For Kate, this behavior was deeply troubling. As someone who has always been dutiful and committed to the royal family, the idea of Meghan seeking to alter the very fabric of the institution was anathema to Kate's sense of duty. Meghan's decision to challenge royal norms was seen by some as a betrayal, and Kate, known for her discretion and loyalty to the crown, may have viewed this as a direct threat to the stability of the monarchy. Perhaps, in Kate's eyes, leaking these emails was the only way to neutralize that threat. By exposing Meghan's true intentions, Kate could potentially discredit her and regain control of the narrative. This wasn't just about personal rivalry. It was about protecting the monarchy from someone who was seen as trying to destabilize it. But this strategic move wasn't without its risks. If the leak was traced back to Kate, it could have serious consequences for her own standing within the royal family. Leaking private communications, especially of such a personal nature, would be seen as a major breach of trust. Even if Meghan's actions were seen as manipulative or self-serving, the fact that Kate had taken matters into her own hands could be perceived as a grave misstep. Yet, Kate's move was not without its justification in her eyes. As the future queen consort, Kate would have been acutely aware of the long-term impact Meghan's actions could have on the royal family's public image. If Meghan's behind-the-scenes dealings painted her as untrustworthy and divisive, it could alienate the public and weaken the monarchy's position. In Kate's mind, exposing the truth, no matter how personal or controversial, was the only way to protect the future of the royal institution. As the emails began to leak, the public reaction was immediate and intense. Media outlets were quick to pick up on the story, and soon, the entire world was abuzz with speculation. Was Kate really the one behind this? Was she acting alone? Or was this a calculated move endorsed by the palace? These were questions that no one had the answers to, but the sheer weight of the email's contents made it clear that the royal family was no longer as invulnerable as it had once seemed. The impact of the leak was felt far beyond the walls of Buckingham Palace. The public, already divided in their opinion of Meghan, was now forced to confront a new narrative. The woman who had once been celebrated as a breath of fresh air in the royal family was now being portrayed as a scheming, self-interested figure. Was this the real Meghan Markle? Or was it simply the result of a personal vendetta from someone within the royal family? As the story continued to unfold, more details emerged about the nature of the emails. Some claimed that Meghan had even gone so far as to hint at future plans for her and Harry to step away from the monarchy completely, with talks of starting a new royal-like foundation of their own. If this was true, it would have been seen as an act of defiance, a direct challenge to the very institution Meghan had married into. But regardless of whether the emails were truly leaked by Kate or not, the damage had been done. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and the public was left questioning Meghan's true motivations. The stage had been set for an intense battle, one that would play out in the media, on social media, and within the palace walls. Kate's alleged move had ignited a firestorm that could never be put out. As we continue to unravel this story, it's important to remember that the royal family is not just an institution. It's a carefully constructed image, a symbol of stability, and a representation of tradition. In a world where the monarchy is under constant scrutiny, the stakes are higher than ever. Kate Middleton's role in this alleged leak, whether intentional or not, has far-reaching implications that extend well beyond Meghan and Kate's personal relationship. It could change the course of the royal family's future. When it comes to the royal family, appearances are everything. For Kate Middleton, who has spent the majority of her life carefully building her image as poised, gracious, and dutiful, the suggestion that she would engage in such a dramatic and covert move, leaking private emails to the press, seems almost unimaginable. But the more we dig into the details of this alleged scandal, the clearer it becomes. Kate's involvement, if true, may not have been as simple as a petty act of revenge or a personal betrayal. Instead, it could have been a calculated decision driven by a complex web of royal politics, family loyalty, and a deeply ingrained sense of duty to the institution she represents. Kate Middleton has long been seen as the embodiment of the royal ideal: calm, composed, and always in control. Unlike some of her counterparts, she has never sought the spotlight in the same way Meghan Markle did, preferring instead to fulfill her royal duties with quiet dignity. But beneath that controlled exterior, the pressures she faces as the future queen consort are immense. She's tasked with upholding the royal family's image while navigating the sometimes treacherous waters of family dynamics, media scrutiny, and public expectations. Given this backdrop, the idea that Kate would leak Meghan's private emails suggests there was more at play than just a passing disagreement between the two women. For Kate, who has always been keenly aware of her position within the royal family, the stakes of any royal family drama go far beyond personal conflict. Every move she makes, every action she takes, carries the potential to impact not just her own reputation, but the entire monarchy. To fully understand Kate's potential role in this alleged leak, we need to consider the growing tensions between her and Meghan that had been simmering for some time. While the public was largely unaware of the rift, insiders had long hinted at a strained relationship between the two women. At first, the media painted Kate as the gracious, welcoming figure, the perfect sister-in-law who was willing to support Meghan through her difficult transition into the royal family. But as time went on, rumors began to surface that Meghan's approach to royal life was causing friction with Kate, who was more accustomed to the strict rules and protocols that came with the role. Meghan, for her part, had always felt constrained by the monarchy. She entered the royal family with a sense of optimism, hoping to use her platform for good and advocate for social change. But the reality of royal life proved far more challenging than she had anticipated. The expectations were overwhelming, the scrutiny was constant, and the restrictions were stifling. Over time, Meghan began to voice her frustrations more openly, and it was clear that her views were at odds with the more traditional values held by Kate and the rest of the royal family. Kate, who had embraced her royal duties with grace, may have seen Meghan's defiance as a threat to the stability of the monarchy. This growing tension between the two women came to a head when Meghan and Harry made their decision to step back from their royal duties, a move that sent shockwaves through the family and the world. For Kate, this decision was a direct challenge to the monarchy's carefully constructed image. Meghan's actions were seen as an attempt to break away from the institution that had made her a household name. As the future queen consort, Kate had an intrinsic duty to protect the monarchy and preserve its legacy. For her, Meghan's decision was not just a personal matter, it was a threat to the very foundation of the royal family. And this, perhaps, is where the idea of leaking Meghan's emails began to make sense. In Kate's eyes, exposing Meghan's true intentions could have been seen as a necessary step to protect the monarchy from someone she believed was actively trying to undermine it. The emails, allegedly filled with Meghan's criticisms of the royal family and her plans to distance herself from its traditional structure, could be the smoking gun that would discredit Meghan's narrative as a victim and cast her in a more manipulative light. But even with these motives, the question remains, why would Kate, of all people, take such a drastic step? After all, Kate has always been the one to toe the line, to maintain composure even in the face of intense pressure. She has never been one to engage in public displays of drama or scandal. So why would she risk everything by allegedly leaking these emails, knowing full well the fallout it could cause not just for Meghan, but for herself as well? One potential explanation lies in Kate's long-standing commitment to the royal family and its legacy. As a future queen, Kate is not just representing herself, she is representing an institution that has endured for centuries. In her eyes, the royal family's survival depends on maintaining its image of unity and stability. Meghan's actions, particularly her decision to publicly distance herself from royal duties, may have felt like a betrayal, a threat to everything Kate had worked so hard to build. By exposing Meghan's true intentions, Kate may have believed she was taking the only step necessary to protect the monarchy and ensure that the royal family's reputation remained intact. It's important to note that, despite the allegations of her involvement in the leak, Kate's actions, if true, would have been anything but impulsive. This was likely a carefully calculated decision. The fact that the emails were reportedly leaked to the press suggests that Kate was not just looking to expose Meghan's true character to the public, she was trying to control the narrative. By releasing the emails, Kate could frame Meghan as the villain in this ongoing drama, positioning herself and the rest of the royal family as the victims of Meghan's manipulative behavior. This would not only justify Kate's actions but also restore the public's faith in the monarchy and reaffirm the royal family's values. Of course, this is all speculative, and we may never know the full truth of Kate's involvement in the leak. But the possibility of her role in this scandal raises important questions about loyalty, family dynamics, and the lengths to which members of the royal family will go to protect their own image. Kate's decision to leak these emails, if she indeed had a hand in it, would not have been made lightly. It would have been driven by a deep sense of responsibility to the monarchy and the need to preserve its public image, even if it meant risking her own reputation in the process. As the story continues to unfold, we can only speculate on how Kate's role in this alleged leak will affect her standing within the royal family. Will she be praised for taking a stand against what she saw as a threat to the monarchy? Or will she be condemned for engaging in such a covert and controversial action? Regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain: the impact of this scandal will be felt for years to come. Whether it was a calculated move to protect the family or an impulsive act of betrayal, Kate Middleton's involvement in this leak could change the course of the royal family's future. For years, the public has been fascinated by the relationship between Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle. From the moment Meghan entered the royal family as Prince Harry's bride, the media and the public closely scrutinized their interactions. On one hand, you had Kate, polished, composed, and ever the picture of royal propriety. On the other hand, Meghan, an American actress turned duchess, seemed like a breath of fresh air, someone who was unafraid to speak her mind and challenge the traditional royal norms. It was a dynamic that many hoped would develop into a close sisterly bond. But, as time went on, cracks began to show in their relationship. While their bond started with the potential for warmth and camaraderie, Meghan and Kate's relationship has been anything but smooth. From the outside, it appeared that Kate was welcoming and supportive of Meghan as she joined the royal family. But behind closed doors, things were not always as harmonious as they seemed. Subtle signs of tension began to emerge, and what seemed like a promising sister-in-law relationship turned into something more complex, possibly even strained. From the very beginning, Meghan's arrival into the royal fold was met with mixed reactions. While the British public initially celebrated her as a modern addition to the monarchy, some within the royal family and their inner circles were less than impressed with her unorthodox approach. Meghan's openness about her views on mental health, her desire to champion causes like feminism, and her willingness to speak candidly about her experiences clashed with the more reserved, traditional values held by many members of the royal family, including Kate. Kate, who had spent years carefully curating her own image as the future queen consort, likely saw Meghan's nonchalant disregard for royal rules and protocols as a challenge to the stability and predictability that she herself had worked so hard to embody. While Meghan's actions were celebrated in some quarters for their boldness, Kate's behavior in the face of Meghan's non-traditional approach seemed more measured. For Kate, the idea of breaking from tradition, of stepping outside the rigid boundaries of royal life, was unsettling. As someone who had always embraced royal duty with a sense of obligation, Meghan's approach probably felt threatening to Kate's own values and ambitions within the royal family. It's important to note that from the outset, Kate and Meghan's relationship was shaped by external factors, chiefly the immense media attention surrounding their every move. In an institution as steeped in history as the British monarchy, every action is magnified under the lens of public scrutiny. For Meghan, this was a double-edged sword. She was thrust into the public eye with the weight of royal expectations placed on her shoulders, while also trying to navigate her own identity as a wife, mother, and global icon. For Kate, who had lived much of her life in the public gaze, this constant attention was nothing new, but for Meghan, it was a whole new reality. The pressures from the media only heightened the tensions between the two women. What might have been a more private struggle between family members became fodder for tabloid headlines and public discourse. Each move, each appearance, was dissected and analyzed, and soon, the media narrative began to shift. Rather than seeing two strong women working together to support their royal duties, the press began to build a story of rivalry, pitting Kate against Meghan in a way that would inevitably lead to tension. One of the earliest signs of this tension came during the lead-up to Meghan's wedding to Prince Harry in 2018. The public's eyes were on Kate as the sister-in-law who would presumably play a significant role in supporting Meghan during this pivotal moment. But in the days leading up to the ceremony, reports began to surface that Meghan and Kate had had a falling out. The specifics of the disagreement were never fully revealed, but rumors spread that it had to do with Meghan's choice of bridesmaid dresses for her wedding. Kate, a mother of 3 at the time, reportedly felt that the dresses Meghan had chosen for her children were too tight and did not fit properly. Meghan, on the other hand, was reportedly upset by Kate's criticisms. While the incident may have seemed minor to outsiders, it illustrated a deeper issue. Meghan was accustomed to a certain level of flexibility and personal freedom, whereas Kate, raised within the confines of royal protocol, was used to a more structured approach. This clash in their attitudes toward royal life could have been one of the first signs of a deeper divide between the two women. But the tension didn't stop there. As time went on, Meghan's increasing discontent with her royal role became more evident. She and Prince Harry's decision to step back from their senior positions in the royal family in early 2020 was a defining moment. The Sussexes' move to North America, away from the royal spotlight, was seen as a significant departure from the traditional royal path, and it was viewed as an affront to the stability and structure that Kate had embraced. For Kate, this must have been particularly difficult to reconcile. As a royal who had spent years adhering to the strict expectations placed upon her, Meghan's decision to break away from the royal family probably felt like a rejection of everything she herself had worked for. Kate, who had built her life around her commitment to royal duty, likely saw Meghan's actions as a sign of rebellion. While Meghan claimed she wanted to create a new path for herself and her family, Kate may have viewed this as an attempt to undermine the very institution that she believed in. By this point, the media frenzy surrounding Meghan and Harry had reached a fever pitch. The public was divided, with some rallying behind the Sussexes and others criticizing their decision to step back. The royal family was under fire from all sides, and Kate found herself caught in the middle. She had always been the picture of grace under pressure, but this was an entirely new level of scrutiny. Meghan's departure from royal duties was not only a personal decision but one that threatened to shift the balance of power and perception within the family. Kate's role in all of this was increasingly questioned. While Meghan and Harry's departure was seen as a personal matter, Kate's position as a key figure in the royal family gave her a unique perspective on the situation. She was the one who would inherit the title of Queen Consort and carry the mantle of royal tradition forward. In this context, Kate's relationship with Meghan became more than just a family matter. It was a question of who would define the future of the royal family. And it's here that the tension between Kate and Meghan truly reached its peak. While Meghan and Harry were stepping into a new life outside of the royal spotlight, Kate remained firmly entrenched in her role as a dutiful royal. As Meghan and Harry sought independence and autonomy, Kate was left behind, forced to continue with the royal duties she had always embraced. The divide between the two women, one seeking freedom, the other bound by duty, became impossible to ignore. In the aftermath of Meghan and Harry's departure, the public narrative surrounding the royal family shifted. Meghan and Harry were seen by some as rebels who had broken away from tradition, while Kate and William were viewed as the steadfast defenders of the monarchy. The media painted Kate as the calm and collected future queen, someone who upheld the values of the royal family despite the challenges. Meanwhile, Meghan was increasingly portrayed as the outsider, the woman who had dared to challenge the monarchy's rigid structure. The tension between the two women, then, was not just about personal disagreements, it was about their differing visions for the future of the royal family. Kate was deeply committed to maintaining the status quo, to preserving the monarchy's traditions and image. Meghan, on the other hand, had always sought to carve her own path, to challenge the institution from within and push for change. Their contrasting views on what the royal family should represent inevitably led to friction, and over time, the public's perception of their relationship shifted from one of camaraderie to one of rivalry. As we look back on the history of Kate and Meghan's relationship, it's clear that their tensions were not just about the occasional disagreement or misunderstanding. They were about two women from very different backgrounds, with very different values, trying to navigate the same institution. For Kate, the monarchy represented tradition, duty, and responsibility. For Meghan, it represented a gilded cage that she was determined to break free from. Their differing views were bound to clash, and when you add the pressure of the media, the public's expectations, and the personal stakes involved, it's no wonder that their relationship ended up being as complex as it was. In the end, it seems that Kate and Meghan's relationship was always destined to be a fraught one. They were never truly allies. Rather, they were two women trying to navigate the same institution, each with their own agenda and vision for the future. And as the events surrounding Meghan's departure from the royal family unfolded, it became increasingly clear that their paths were destined to diverge, each representing a different vision of what it meant to be a member of the royal family. The royal family, as a centuries-old institution, has always prided itself on its ability to maintain unity and a sense of decorum in the face of public scrutiny. The actions of its members are, more often than not, carefully measured to uphold the monarchy's image of strength, tradition, and stability. However, in the wake of the alleged email leak by Kate Middleton, the monarchy found itself at a crossroads, caught between its commitment to protecting the family's legacy and the need to address a scandal that threatened to undermine everything it stood for. How the royal family responded to this unexpected and explosive event would have profound implications not only for Kate and Meghan, but for the monarchy as a whole. The reaction within the royal family was immediate but calculated. Given the gravity of the allegations, it's likely that discussions behind palace doors were intense. The leak of private emails, particularly ones that paint a royal family member in a negative light, was not something that could be dismissed easily. In many ways, the royals had faced scandals before, rumors, disagreements, and even more personal betrayals. But nothing quite like this. This was not just an attack on one individual, it was an attack on the royal family's very image. A leak of this magnitude had the potential to fracture public opinion, fuel further division, and cast long-lasting doubts on the institution itself. Prince William, as the future king, would have been acutely aware of the potential damage this could do to the monarchy. As the one who had been closest to Kate throughout the years, it's likely that he was aware of the ongoing tensions between her and Meghan. But even if he had an inkling of what was to come, the timing of the leak could not have been worse. The royal family was already grappling with the aftermath of Meghan and Harry's departure from royal duties. The press had been relentless, the public was divided, and now, with this new revelation, the monarchy was thrust into the spotlight once again, but this time, in a more negative light. King Charles, too, would have had to navigate the fallout. While he may have sympathized with Kate's position, after all, as the father of the future queen consort, he was deeply invested in the preservation of the royal family's image. He also understood the delicate nature of royal relations. Charles was no stranger to family drama, having dealt with the fallout from his own marriage to Princess Diana. But the idea of one royal family member leaking private information about another was a new and unprecedented challenge. For Charles, the priority would have been to maintain the appearance of unity within the family. The last thing he would have wanted was for this scandal to tear the family apart, further alienating Meghan and Harry and creating a rift that would only grow deeper over time. In the immediate aftermath of the leak, the royal family took a quiet but firm stance. While there were no public statements from Buckingham Palace regarding Kate's alleged involvement, it's likely that the family came together privately to discuss their next steps. The palace, known for its discretion, would have likely worked hard behind the scenes to control the narrative, distancing itself from the scandal while protecting the integrity of the monarchy. It's possible that a directive was issued for members of the royal family to remain silent on the issue, at least publicly, to avoid further inflaming the situation. But the lack of public comment did not mean that the matter was being ignored. Within the confines of the palace, there would have been intense discussions about how to handle the fallout. The last thing the royal family wanted was to appear divided, especially at a time when public support was already wavering. The leaks, if proven to be true, would have painted a picture of disarray, betrayal, and scandal at the heart of the monarchy. And for an institution that prides itself on its ability to weather storms and remain above reproach, this was a challenge like no other. Despite the royal family's attempts to maintain a facade of unity, it was impossible to ignore the growing speculation surrounding Kate's alleged role in the leak. The press quickly picked up on the story, and rumors swirled as to who within the palace might have been responsible. Was Kate acting alone, or was she carrying out a plan with the tacit approval of other royal family members? The mystery surrounding the leak only added fuel to the fire. As the media delved deeper into the story, the question on everyone's mind was how Kate's actions would affect her relationship with the royal family, especially with her in-laws, Prince William and King Charles. For Prince William, the situation was a delicate balancing act. On one hand, he would have felt a deep loyalty to his wife, Kate. He had always been protective of her, and seeing her dragged through the media in such a public and controversial way would undoubtedly have been painful. On the other hand, as a future king, he had a duty to protect the royal family's reputation, which could have been severely damaged if the leak were to be traced back to Kate. His response, like that of the rest of the family, was likely measured and restrained. Publicly, there was no sign of dissent, no indication that William was in any way disapproving of his wife's actions. But privately, there would have been discussions about the implications of Kate's alleged move, and how to prevent the scandal from spiraling further out of control. For King Charles, the matter was even more complex. As the monarch, he was not only concerned with protecting his own reputation but also with ensuring the stability of the institution he was set to lead. The royal family, despite its wealth and power, has always been vulnerable to public opinion, and Charles knew that this scandal could have a lasting impact. If Kate were found to have been involved in the leak, it could permanently damage her reputation and undermine the royal family's carefully cultivated image of unity. This was something Charles, with his years of experience navigating the complexities of royal life, would have understood all too well. Despite the behind-the-scenes efforts to control the situation, the public's perception of the royal family was shifting. The leak of private emails had opened a window into the inner workings of the palace, and many began to question the true nature of the family's relationships. Was the monarchy really as united as it appeared, or were there deeper rifts that had been carefully concealed for years? This question began to resonate with the public, and the scandal surrounding Kate's alleged actions only intensified the scrutiny. The royal family's image of unity was beginning to crack, and the public was left to wonder whether it could ever be repaired. As the story unfolded, it became clear that the royal family would have to respond to the growing crisis, not just through private discussions, but by taking a more proactive approach. In the coming weeks, members of the royal family would have to decide how to publicly address the allegations, how to protect the institution from further damage, and how to manage the fallout from the leak in a way that would minimize the long-term damage to the monarchy's reputation. The royal family's response to this scandal would ultimately define how the public viewed them for years to come and whether the monarchy could survive this latest crisis. The moment the news broke of the alleged email leak, it was clear that Meghan Markle's world was about to be turned upside down once again. After months of public scrutiny, intense media coverage, and the aftermath of stepping down from royal duties, the last thing Meghan needed was yet another scandal to contend with. But the leak, allegedly orchestrated by her sister-in-law, Kate Middleton, was unlike any other. This was not just a personal conflict or a family squabble that could be brushed aside. This was a calculated move to expose her private thoughts, her frustrations, and perhaps most damaging of all, her true intentions. Meghan, who had already been painted by the media as a divisive figure within the royal family, now found herself at the center of yet another storm. For her, the leak was not just a betrayal, it was a direct assault on her character, one that would further fuel the narrative that she was manipulative and self-serving. But Meghan's response to the leak would reveal much about her resilience, her desire to protect her family, and her determination to fight back against the forces that had long been trying to undermine her. The immediate reaction from Meghan and her camp was one of shock and outrage. According to sources close to the Duchess, Meghan was blindsided by the news of the email leak. She had no idea that the private communications she had sent to her closest confidants had been made public, and the idea that they were leaked by Kate Middleton was particularly hard to digest. For Meghan, the idea that a member of the royal family, someone who was supposed to be a partner in upholding the monarchy, would betray her trust in such a way was a bitter pill to swallow. Meghan had always been a fiercely private individual, especially when it came to her personal communications. The idea that her private thoughts and feelings about her life within the royal family would be exposed to the world was not just a violation of her privacy, it was an attack on her character. In the past, Meghan had been accused of being too open, too willing to share her experiences and opinions with the public. But this was different. This was not a carefully crafted interview or a public statement. This was a leak of private emails, messages meant for a select few, not for the world to dissect. But as Meghan's initial shock began to wear off, it was clear that she was not going to take this betrayal lying down. Meghan Markle, who had spent much of her time since stepping back from royal duties working on causes that mattered to her, such as women's rights, mental health advocacy, and racial justice, quickly mobilized her legal team. In a statement issued by her representatives, Meghan expressed her outrage at the leak, calling it a gross violation of her privacy and vowing to take legal action against those responsible. The statement was measured but firm, a reminder that Meghan was not someone to be easily pushed around. At the same time, Meghan also began to craft a public narrative around the leak. Instead of retreating into silence or allowing the media to dictate the terms of the story, Meghan took control of the situation, framing the leak as part of a larger, ongoing campaign against her. In her mind, this was just another chapter in the relentless media attacks that had been waged against her since she first entered the royal family. From the moment she and Harry became engaged, Meghan had been the subject of intense scrutiny, often far more than any other royal figure, and she was all too familiar with the ways in which her words, actions, and personal life had been twisted to fit a particular narrative. For Meghan, the leak was a clear attempt to undermine her credibility, to paint her as someone who could not be trusted and who had ulterior motives. It was a classic case of the media, and perhaps even members of the royal family, attempting to control the narrative, to box her into a corner where she had no choice but to defend herself. But Meghan was determined not to let that happen. In a series of public interviews and statements, Meghan began to reframe the narrative. She took to the media to defend her actions, explaining that her frustrations with royal life were not about personal gain or ambition, but about her desire to break free from an institution that she believed was outdated and out of touch with the needs of modern society. She spoke candidly about her struggles with mental health, her desire to raise her family on her own terms, and her belief that the royal family was not equipped to support her in the way she needed. But what was most striking in Meghan's response was her focus on the idea of family. She acknowledged the tension between herself and Kate, but emphasized that the heart of the issue was not just a personal disagreement, it was a difference in values. Meghan, who had always valued her independence and her ability to speak her mind, clashed with the more traditional, reserved nature of the royal family. Kate, as a future queen consort, represented the monarchy's commitment to maintaining its image and adhering to its centuries-old rules and expectations. For Meghan, this was an impossible dichotomy to navigate, and the conflict between her desire for autonomy and the monarchy's expectations was one that had been brewing for years. Despite her public statements, Meghan's legal team also began to explore options for addressing the leak in a more formal way. According to sources close to the situation, Meghan's legal advisors began investigating the possibility of taking legal action against the individuals responsible for leaking the emails. While the exact details of her legal strategy were not made public, it was clear that Meghan was prepared to go to great lengths to defend her privacy and her reputation. She had already faced public backlash over her decision to step back from royal duties, and the last thing she wanted was for her personal communications to be used against her in a way that could further tarnish her image. But beyond the legal and public response, Meghan's reaction to the leak was also deeply emotional. According to friends and confidants, Meghan was devastated by the betrayal, not just because of the violation of her privacy, but because of the implications it had for her relationship with Kate. While Meghan had been aware of the tensions between herself and her sister-in-law, she had never imagined that Kate would go so far as to leak her private emails to the press. The emotional toll of the situation was significant, and friends reported that Meghan struggled with feelings of isolation and betrayal. For someone who had already been dealing with the pressures of life in the public eye, this new scandal felt like another heavy blow. However, despite the emotional strain, Meghan remained resolute. She had already faced the media's harshest judgments, the royal family's scrutiny, and the weight of public opinion. If there was one thing Meghan had learned throughout her time in the spotlight, it was that she could not afford to let others dictate her story. She had to take control of her narrative, of her image, and of her future. As the months went on and the media continued to speculate about the leak, Meghan's response became increasingly defiant. She continued to speak out about the difficulties she had faced within the royal family and the pressure she had been under, but she also used her platform to advocate for the causes that were important to her. Meghan knew that the leak was a setback, but she also understood that it was not the end of the story. This was yet another chapter in her ongoing battle to be seen for who she truly was, not the villain the media had made her out to be, but a woman who was trying to navigate the complexities of family, fame, and duty on her own terms. Ultimately, Meghan Markle's response to the alleged email leak was a mixture of shock, outrage, and determination. She refused to let this latest scandal define her, and she fought back with the same tenacity and resilience that had characterized her entire journey into the royal family. The leak may have been a betrayal, but Meghan was not one to be easily silenced. In the end, she knew that the story was far from over, and she was ready to write the next chapter on her own terms. When news of the alleged email leak hit the headlines, it didn't just cause ripples within the royal family, it sent shockwaves through the media, sparking an intense frenzy that only escalated over time. As the story unfolded, the media's reaction was immediate, relentless, and at times, sensationalized. For the public, the scandal was an opportunity to see behind the palace walls and into the private lives of two of the most famous women in the world, Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle. For journalists, it was a treasure trove of drama, intrigue, and, of course, the kind of high-stakes conflict that generates clicks, views, and headlines. The leak of private emails between Meghan and her confidants, allegedly exposed by Kate, presented the media with a narrative that had everything: betrayal, family discord, a clash of royal ideals, and a fresh opportunity to dissect the ever-evolving story of the Sussexes and the Cambridges. The public, eager for the latest royal drama, eagerly consumed every detail, while media outlets raced to be the first to break the latest twist in the saga. But amid all the speculation, one thing was clear: this scandal had captured the world's attention in a way few royal stories ever had. The immediate response from the media was a mix of shock, disbelief, and, in some quarters, excitement. For many tabloids, this was the kind of story they had been waiting for, a story that could fuel the ongoing narrative of division within the royal family. The public's fascination with the Sussexes had already been well established, especially after Meghan and Harry's decision to step back from their royal duties in early 2020. Now, with the news of the email leak, the stakes were even higher. The media saw this as an opportunity to reinforce the growing rift between Meghan and the rest of the royal family, particularly Kate, who had long been portrayed as the picture of royal grace and dignity. But as the story unfolded, it became clear that the media's role in this scandal was not just as passive observers. The press itself became a character in the drama, as reporters, pundits, and royal insiders began to weigh in with their own opinions, theories, and speculations. Within hours of the leak, news outlets around the world were filled with headlines that highlighted the supposed animosity between Kate and Meghan, painting the two women as rivals locked in an epic battle for control of the royal narrative. The emails, which were never meant for public consumption, became fodder for a media circus that seemed to have no end in sight. The tabloids, in particular, seized on the story, framing it as a classic royal feud. Kate versus Meghan. The battle for the crown, read one headline, while another claimed, royal scandal, Kate exposes Meghan's true intentions. The focus was less on the contents of the emails themselves and more on the perceived betrayal between the two women. The media painted Kate as the dutiful royal who was simply trying to protect the monarchy, while Meghan was portrayed as the outsider, the ambitious woman who was willing to go to extreme lengths to break free from the royal family's constraints. For the first time in years, the public was given a glimpse into the internal conflicts that had been simmering beneath the surface of the royal family. But instead of being presented with a nuanced view of the situation, the media oversimplified the story, focusing on the sensational aspects of the leak rather than the deeper issues at play. The public, starved for a new royal drama to consume, eagerly embraced the narrative that was being constructed. They were fed a story of two women locked in a bitter feud, with the royal family caught in the middle. The media's portrayal of Kate and Meghan as adversaries only served to fuel the fire, creating a rift that would continue to grow as the story unfolded. As the days passed, the media frenzy intensified. News outlets dug deeper into the backgrounds of both Kate and Meghan, attempting to uncover more details about their relationship. The press eagerly combed through old interviews, social media posts, and public appearances, searching for clues that could shed light on the true nature of their conflict. Speculation ran rampant, with some journalists even suggesting that the email leak was just the tip of the iceberg, that there were more shocking revelations to come. In addition to the tabloid frenzy, more serious outlets, including major newspapers and news networks, began to weigh in with their own takes on the situation. Royal experts and commentators offered their opinions on the leak, and public figures from both sides of the Atlantic weighed in on the matter. Some defended Meghan, arguing that she was the victim of a smear campaign, while others rallied behind Kate, claiming that she was simply trying to protect the integrity of the royal family. As the media narrative continued to evolve, the story took on a life of its own, with every new development fueling the controversy. The public's response to the media coverage was, unsurprisingly, divided. Supporters of Meghan rallied around her, condemning the leak as an invasion of her privacy and a betrayal by a family member. On social media, hashtags like #IStandWithMeghan and #JusticeForMeghan trended, with fans and well-wishers expressing their solidarity. For Meghan's supporters, this was just another instance of the royal family trying to tear her down, and they were determined to stand by her through the fallout. On the other hand, Kate's supporters defended her actions, framing the leak as an unfortunate but necessary step to protect the monarchy's image. For many, Kate represented the ideal royal, graceful, composed, and unwavering in her commitment to royal duty. They viewed the leak as a justified move to expose Meghan's alleged manipulative behavior, believing that Kate was simply acting in the best interest of the family and the institution she would one day lead. This faction of the public was quick to condemn Meghan, accusing her of trying to destroy the monarchy for her own personal gain. As the scandal continued to unfold, the media's focus began to shift. What had started as a story about a personal betrayal between two women quickly morphed into a larger narrative about the future of the royal family. The question on everyone's mind was no longer just about the leak. It was about what this meant for the monarchy itself. Was this the beginning of the end for the royal family, or could they weather yet another scandal and emerge stronger than ever? The media, ever hungry for drama, was quick to jump on this question, with commentators speculating on the future of the monarchy in the wake of the leak. Some suggested that the rift between Kate and Meghan was just a symptom of a much larger problem within the royal family, one that had been simmering for years. The leaks, the personal conflicts, and the ongoing power struggles between different factions of the family were seen by some as a sign that the monarchy was increasingly out of touch with the modern world. At the same time, others argued that the monarchy would survive, as it always had, by adapting to the changing times. They pointed to the strength of the institution itself, the enduring legacy of the royal family, and the way it had managed to survive countless scandals and crises throughout history. In their view, the leak was just another bump in the road, one that would eventually be forgotten as the royal family continued its long-standing role as symbols of stability and continuity. But whether the monarchy would ultimately emerge unscathed from this scandal or whether the leak would have lasting consequences remained to be seen. What was clear, however, was that the media frenzy surrounding the leak would not be over anytime soon. As long as the public remained captivated by the drama, the media would continue to push the story forward, digging for more details, more revelations, and more drama. Ultimately, the media played a pivotal role in shaping the public's perception of the scandal. The way the story was reported, how the leak was framed, how the royal family's responses were portrayed, and how Meghan and Kate were positioned in the media was crucial in determining how the public would view the situation. In many ways, the media itself became a driving force in the narrative, influencing how the story evolved and how the royal family's reputation would be impacted. As the scandal continued to unfold, the media remained at the center of the story, feeding the public's appetite for more and keeping the controversy alive. In the wake of the explosive leak of Meghan Markle's private emails, one of the most pressing questions that arose was not just about the motivations behind the leak, but the ethics of such a betrayal in the first place. While much of the public and media focused on the drama, the personal fallout, and the royal family's internal conflicts, there was a deeper issue at play, one that has far-reaching implications for privacy, trust, and the boundaries of what's considered acceptable in the pursuit of a good story. Was the leak justified? Or was it, as some critics claimed, a reckless invasion of privacy that crossed an ethical line? The ethics of leaking personal information is a subject that has been hotly debated for years, especially in the context of the royal family. The palace is an institution built on secrecy, discretion, and a carefully curated public image. For generations, members of the royal family have lived under the scrutiny of the public eye, and their every move is dissected and analyzed. But while the media has always had access to certain aspects of their lives, there has traditionally been a sense of respect for personal boundaries until now. The leak of Meghan's private emails, allegedly orchestrated by her sister-in-law Kate Middleton, raised serious ethical questions about the right to privacy within a family, especially when that family is under such intense public scrutiny. In many ways, the leak shattered the illusion of privacy that is often associated with the royals. For Meghan, these emails were deeply personal communications, meant to be shared only with a select few people she trusted. To have those emails exposed to the world without her consent was, in her eyes, not just an invasion of privacy, it was a personal betrayal, a violation of the trust she had placed in her family. But the question remains, was Kate justified in leaking the emails, particularly if the contents of those messages revealed Meghan's true intentions? For some, the leak was seen as a necessary step to protect the monarchy from what they perceived as a threat. Kate, as a member of the royal family, was tasked with maintaining the institution's image and ensuring its survival. If Meghan's communications revealed her to be a disruptive force, someone who wanted to undermine the monarchy, then perhaps Kate believed that exposing the truth was her duty, no matter the personal cost. For those who defend Kate, this was a case of doing what was necessary to protect the institution. But even if the leak was motivated by a sense of duty, there are still significant ethical concerns to address. At its core, the ethics of leaking personal information revolve around the idea of consent. Should one family member ever have the right to expose another's private thoughts and communications to the public, especially when that exposure is intended to cause harm or damage a person's reputation? In the case of the royals, the line between public and private life is often blurred. But that doesn't mean the same ethical standards should not apply. Every individual, regardless of their status or role, is entitled to a basic level of privacy, and that privacy extends to their personal communications. The idea that Kate could have acted out of a sense of royal duty does not automatically absolve her of responsibility for the leak. While it's true that the monarchy has long been concerned with maintaining its public image, there's a significant difference between protecting an institution and invading someone's privacy for the sake of public perception. It's easy to argue that the monarchy's reputation is paramount, but at what cost? Does the potential harm to an individual's well-being, privacy, and reputation outweigh the perceived need to preserve the royal family's image? The ethical question becomes even more complicated when considering the motivations behind the leak. If the emails truly contain personal grievances, frustrations, and criticisms about the royal family, then the leak can be seen not just as an act of defense but as a personal attack. This was not about protecting the monarchy, it was about exposing a family member's vulnerabilities and weaknesses. The question then becomes, was the leak an act of retaliation, or was it an attempt to control the narrative and frame Meghan in a more negative light? If Kate was acting out of personal frustration or a desire to discredit Meghan, then the ethical implications of her actions become even more troubling. For Meghan, the impact of the leak was immediate and devastating. As a public figure, she had already been subject to the harsh glare of media attention, but this was different. These were her personal thoughts, her private reflections, and to have them exposed without her consent was a violation on a deeply personal level. The contents of the emails may have painted a picture of a woman frustrated by her circumstances, but it's important to ask whether those frustrations should have been made public in the first place. The emotional toll of having her personal life put on display for the world to judge cannot be overstated. Whether or not Meghan's criticisms of the royal family were justified, the fact remains that her privacy was violated, and that is an ethical breach that should not be overlooked. From an ethical standpoint, the leak also raises significant concerns about the responsibility of those who have access to personal information. In this case, the emails were shared with a select few, including people within the royal family and their trusted confidants. Those individuals, entrusted with private communications, have a moral duty to protect that information. To leak personal emails, especially when they involve sensitive matters or family conflicts, is an abuse of that trust. If the leak was, as alleged, a calculated move by Kate to discredit Meghan, it's a clear example of the ethical dangers of breaching that trust for personal or political gain. The ethical dilemma also extends to the media, who played a significant role in amplifying the story once the leak occurred. The media, as an institution, is bound by its own ethical standards that, in theory, prioritize fairness, accuracy, and respect for privacy. But in the world of sensationalism, where stories are crafted for maximum impact and public engagement, those standards are often overlooked. In this case, the media's decision to sensationalize the leak and focus on the conflict between Meghan and Kate only further fueled the narrative of division within the royal family. The media's relentless pursuit of the story and its willingness to exploit private communications for the sake of a good headline only deepened the ethical concerns surrounding the leak. For some, the leak was simply another example of the modern media's insatiable appetite for scandal, celebrity gossip, and drama. In an era where privacy is increasingly difficult to protect, the line between public interest and personal privacy has become increasingly blurred. The public may have been fascinated by the story, but does that fascination justify the invasion of privacy? At what point does the public's right to know end, and the individual's right to privacy begin? As the story continued to unfold, the ethical questions surrounding the leak remained unresolved. While some defended Kate's actions as necessary for the greater good of the monarchy, others argued that the breach of trust was a clear violation of privacy that should not have been allowed to happen. The leak of personal emails, especially when done with the intention of damaging a person's reputation, raises serious ethical concerns about the balance between public duty and personal integrity. It's a complex issue, one that challenges our notions of privacy, loyalty, and the responsibility we have to one another as individuals, regardless of our status or role in society. In the end, the ethics of leaking personal information are not just about whether the right to privacy was violated. They're about the deeper implications of trust, betrayal, and the power dynamics that exist within families, institutions, and the media. The fallout from the leak of Meghan Markle's emails will undoubtedly continue to be felt for years to come, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the complex ethical issues that arise when personal information is used for public gain. As we continue to navigate an increasingly interconnected world, the ethical boundaries of privacy will remain a topic of crucial importance for all of us to consider. Kate Middleton has long been the face of stability within the royal family. Her poised demeanor, graceful appearances, and unwavering commitment to royal duties making her a beloved figure among the British public. As the future queen consort, her role within the monarchy is of utmost importance. But with the recent scandal surrounding the alleged leak of Meghan Markle's private emails, Kate's future in the royal family, and her position as the future queen consort, has come under intense scrutiny. The question now being asked is not just how Kate will weather the fallout from this scandal, but how it will impact her future role in the monarchy. For years, Kate has been seen as the picture of royal duty, the ideal royal who follows tradition and represents the monarchy with grace and dignity. But the actions she may have taken in the wake of Meghan's decision to step away from royal duties and the subsequent email leak could change the trajectory of her public image, as well as her future within the royal family. As the dust settles on the scandal, it is clear that Kate's role in the royal family will evolve in ways that may be difficult to predict. While some see her as the defender of royal tradition, others may view her as someone willing to go to extreme lengths to protect the institution. In the court of public opinion, Kate's actions, if she was indeed involved in the leak, could alter how she is perceived, even among her most loyal supporters. Despite the current controversy, Kate's future is inextricably tied to her long-term role within the monarchy. As the wife of Prince William, the future King of England, Kate's position as the Queen Consort is all but guaranteed. But what will that role look like in the wake of this scandal? How will Kate navigate her relationship with the media, the public, and the rest of the royal family, especially in light of her alleged involvement in this deeply personal and divisive issue? Kate's reputation as a symbol of royal tradition. For years, Kate has been positioned as the ideal royal. She has always maintained a carefully cultivated public image, someone who is dutiful, graceful, and above the fray of royal controversies. As the future Queen Consort, Kate has long been seen as the perfect complement to Prince William, embodying the values of tradition and stability that the monarchy has long relied on. However, the leak of Meghan's emails could challenge that image. While Kate's defenders argue that she was acting out of a sense of duty to protect the monarchy, the very idea of leaking personal emails, especially those that paint another family member in a negative light, casts a shadow on her reputation. The public's perception of Kate has always been shaped by her adherence to royal norms and her dedication to the monarchy's image. But if she is found to have leaked these emails, even for the sake of the monarchy's survival, her carefully built reputation could be irreparably damaged. Kate's future as the Queen Consort will hinge on how she handles this scandal. Will she be able to maintain her public composure and continue to represent the monarchy with grace, or will the leak become a permanent stain on her legacy? The public's view of her will likely evolve depending on how she addresses the controversy. While it is unlikely that Kate's position within the royal family will be jeopardized, her future as Queen Consort will certainly be influenced by the fallout from this scandal. Will this scandal affect Kate's role in the royal family? Kate's role within the royal family has always been one of respect, stability, and adherence to tradition. As the future Queen Consort, she is expected to be a steady hand, a figure of grace and dignity who will support her husband, Prince William, as he one day ascends to the throne. However, with the controversy surrounding Meghan Markle and the alleged email leak, Kate's role could become more complicated. The royal family is known for its unity, but that unity has been repeatedly tested in recent years. The rift between Meghan and Kate, which has long been a source of speculation, has now become public fodder for the media. If Kate is found to have played a role in the leak, it could further exacerbate tensions within the royal family, creating a more divided atmosphere at the palace. This would be a challenge for Kate, whose primary role has always been to serve as a unifying figure within the royal family, especially as she prepares for the responsibilities that come with being the future Queen Consort. The fallout from this scandal could also affect Kate's relationship with other members of the royal family. While Prince William has always been supportive of his wife, the pressure of the situation could strain their relationship. The potential for further media speculation about the rift between Kate and Meghan and the ongoing scrutiny of their private lives may put additional strain on Kate's ability to carry out her royal duties. In the long term, it could affect her approach to the public and her role within the royal family, as she may find herself under even greater pressure to maintain her image as the royal family's ideal future queen. Public perception and media influence. Perhaps the most significant challenge for Kate in the wake of the email leak is the way in which the media will continue to shape public perception of her. As the media frenzy surrounding the leak continues, Kate's image will be subjected to intense scrutiny. While she has long been seen as a stable, reliable figure within the royal family, the leak could force the public to question whether that image was truly representative of the woman behind the royal facade. The media has a unique ability to mold public opinion, and in the age of social media, that influence is even more pronounced. With the leak now a part of the royal family's ongoing saga, the public's view of Kate will likely shift depending on how the media frames the situation. If the media continues to frame her actions as a necessary step to protect the monarchy, Kate may be able to weather the storm. However, if the narrative shifts to one of betrayal or underhanded tactics, it could permanently alter the way the public perceives her. Kate's ability to navigate the media's portrayal of her will be crucial in determining her future role in the monarchy. The public has always seen her as a symbol of grace and dignity, but this scandal could change that perception if it continues to dominate the media's coverage. If Kate is unable to control the narrative, she may struggle to regain the public's trust and maintain her position within the royal family. The legacy of Kate Middleton. Kate Middleton's legacy within the royal family will ultimately depend on how she handles the challenges ahead. If she can move beyond the scandal and continue to serve the